Have a nice song tonight, Bhajahu Manna by Govinda Das Kaviraj. You may not know it, Amit. I don't know if you know it, Prakash, but it's a very famous, important song, very well-known song. It's speaking about the mind. The mind is such a rascal. And we'll hear about the mind and how to tame the mind and what rascal the mind is, what we can do with the mind. Of course, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gītā, with the mind we can degrade ourselves, but we can also elevate ourselves with the same mind. It's all depending how it is being used. Let's hear more in the translation, but let's start the song. Bhajahu Manna Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare Bhajahu Manna Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare Durlapamanava Chanama Satsange Durlapamanava Chanama Satsange Taraho e Bhava Sindhure Taraho e Bhava Sindhure Bhajahu Manna Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare Bhajahu Manna Shri Nandanandana Abhaya Charanara Vindare Durlapamanava Chanama Satsange Durlapamanava Chanama Satsange Taraho e Bhava Sindhure Taraho e Bhava Sindhure. Sita Adhaba Bhata Parichana Edina Chanmini Lagire Sita Adhaba Bhata Parichana Edina Chanmini Jagire Vipala Sevinu Kripana Durachana Pipala Sevinu Kripana Durachana Chala Chapala Shukalabha Lagire Chapala Shukalabha Lagire Edana Chopana Putta Parichana Iteki Ache Paral Titire Edana Yaubana Putra Parichana Iteki Ache Paral Titire Kamala Dalachala Chivana Dhalamala Kamala Dalachala Chivana Dhalamala Bhajahu Haripada Nitire Bhajahu Haripada Nitire Shravana Kirtana Smarana Vandan Pada Sevana Dasyare Shravana Kirtana Smarana Vandana Pada Sevana Dasyare Puchana Shakichana Atmani Vedana Putana Shakichana Atmani Vedana Govinda Dasa Abhi Lasare Govinda Dasa Abhi Lasare. Hare Krishna. Here we have a translation. Anyone wants to read that translation?
Yeah, Prabhu, I will read it.
Okay, thank you.
O mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which makes one fearless. I start again, sorry. O mind, just worship the lotus feet of the son of Nanda, which makes one fearless. Having obtained this rare human birth, cross over this ocean of worldly existence through the association of saintly persons.
Okay, any question, Amit or Prakash?
No, Prabhuji.
So I will raise a question. Who is the son of Nanda? Who is Nanda? Of course, Nanda is Nanda Maharaj. So foster father of Krishna. Mother Yashoda, Ma Yashoda, Mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj worships the lotus feet of the son of Nanda. The son of Nanda is Krishna. And worshipping the lotus feet of Krishna makes one fearless. Why it makes one fearless? Because one got the best protection in all the universes. If we get Krishna, if we hold on to Krishna's lotus feet, why should we be afraid? He is looking after us fully. He's looking after everyone. But if someone is worshipping the lotus feet of Krishna, he is personally and especially looking after us. So why shall we be fearful? This material world is called Kunta, full of fear. At the moment people have so much fear. People fear that Russia will take over the whole world, will take over Europe, will march into Poland, into Germany and France, and standing in London, coming over and conquering all the Western countries. No, that will not happen, first of all. Second of all, as a devotee, we are not fearful. We are fearless. Krishna will take care. Like the cowherd boys. When there were demons coming, or there was Aghasura. We all know the story of Aghasura, the big reptile who wanted to kill Krishna and all the cowherd boys, and sent by Kamsa, the demon. And so he thought the best way of action would be to just laying on the path where Krishna and the cowherd boys would come while tending the cows. And he assumed a gigantic form, Aghasura. Huge, gigantic form, and opened his mouth very wide. So it looked like, and it's described, it looked like some big cave or something like that. And he thought, well, the cowherd boys will walk into my mouth and are curious, what is that cave? And then when the cowherd boys walk in, then Krishna will also walk in, and I close my mouth and I swallow them all. So, mission accomplished. Kamsa. So, when the cowherd boys saw such gigantic form, they happily walked into the mouth of the demon, not fearing anything. If anything is wrong, Krishna will protect us. immediately Krishna will protect us. So much faith in Krishna. And we know the story, yes. They walked into the mouth of Aghasura, and then Krishna thought, now I need to do something. My cowherd boys, my friends. So he also walked into the mouth, and then he expanded himself, and the demon burst into hundreds of pieces. His life air was choked. Because if something is in our throat and is blocking, then we cannot breathe, and so Aghasura was killed. But the cowherd boys, even some said it looks like a demon. Oh, never mind, Krishna will protect us. This is fearlessness. So in this world full of fear, what's happened with the war, what happened with COVID, and if the war is over and COVID is over, then there's something else. Fear of nuclear weapon, of a nuclear strike. So that's so much fear. That world is called Kunta. And the spiritual world is called Vaikunta, means without fear. In that world there is no fear. There's Krishna. And there are no demons either. So that is an explanation on fearlessness. And another point here, having obtained a rare human birth. The human birth is very rare. Out of 8,400,000 species altogether, there are only 400,000 human forms, species. 8 million others. So it is quite a rare form, the human form. So here the prayer, having obtained this rare human birth, cross over the ocean of worldly existence. So we have to cross over these material oceans of nations. How? Through the association of saintly persons, devotees. Though, again, we hear it again and again and again and again. By the association of devotees, of saintly persons, we can actually become immortal. Without the association of saintly persons, it is not really possible. Let's go further. Amit, next.
Thank you for that. The lovely translation that you gave us there. Thank you. Both in the day and at night, I remain sleepless, suffering the pains of the heat and cold, the wind and the rain. For a fraction of flickering happiness, I have uselessly served wicked and miserly men.
Okay, very interesting second verse as well. Of course, that we can relate that to some in India. Someone is not having the central heating on and nice, but Jayanti Bai, welcome, Hare Krishna. So, sleepless. Why is he sleepless, Govinda Ghosh? Because it's too hot or it's too cold. And there's wind and there is rain. So obviously he has his little bhajan kutir, which is not so sheltered, it's open, has a bit of a roof perhaps, or perhaps he's living under a tree as well. So he cannot even sleep properly because of the pain of heat and cold and wind and rain. And the second sentence, for a fraction of flickering happiness. That's a significant phrase here. Flickering happiness. This happiness in this material world is very flickering. Flickering means like sometimes a light we see the street lights. Street lights, sometimes the light bulb is kind of broken and it's flickering. And it's very annoying when you walk or drive, and we all have seen that. The street light is not on, it's just flickering on, off very quickly. So the happiness is like that in that material world. It is flickering happiness, on, off, on, off. There is no only happiness from beginning till end. No. Happiness is broken by distress, and then happiness again, distress, like a flickering light bulb. So he says, Govinda Ghosh, I have uselessly served wicked and miserly men. We all serving through our work, our boss, and so on. And if we are unfortunate, our boss is wicked, the company owner. If we're very fortunate, then we have a bit of a compassionate person as our boss of the company, of the office, or supervisor. But very often there are wicked people just thinking of their own profit. And we have to serve them. We have to serve them. Why we serve them? Why? To pay the bills and to live a comfortable life of flickering happiness. Next, Amit.
What assurance of real happiness is there in all of one's wealth, youthfulness, sons and family members? This life is tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. Therefore, you should always serve and worship the divine feet of Lord Hari.
Yep, one moment. Yes, is there any assurance of real happiness in our wealth, our bank account? No. That bank account may be in a good balance today, and tomorrow's government has robbed it through taxes and so many other things. So many things may happen. So real happiness, that's important. Not the kind of flickering happiness or material happiness. So Govinda Ghosh is saying there is no assurance of real happiness if we take shelter of our wealth, of our usefulness. That will not stay. Out of usefulness comes old age. Real happiness in our sons. But there is no real happiness in our sons either, because our sons may not turn out as we want them to turn out. They may even turn against us. They may be materialistic. We may pursue a spiritual path and the sons don't follow. So there is no shelter, no happiness, no assurance, even if we have sons, even if we have 100 sons. And what about family members? The family members cannot help us. At the end of our material body, everyone flies their own plane. That's Srila Prabhupada saying. We're flying our own plane. Nobody, once we're in the air, like an airplane, once the pilot is in the air, he's flying his own plane. If he's in some kind of trouble and distress, nobody can help him. But the help is there on the ground before he's flying. He's training. That is a helper. So that is happening through the association of devotees. That we get trained in Krishna consciousness, trained to become fearless and to take shelter of Krishna's lotus feet. And when the time comes, the time of leaving this body, we're flying our own plane, but we can fly it because we have been trained. But nobody will help us. Wealth will not help us, usefulness, sons, family members, nothing. Here an interesting example is given. This life is tottering like a drop of water on a lotus petal. I don't know if you have ever seen a lotus flower in a lake. So sometimes on the lotus leaf, The lotus leaf is waxy. It's very like a waxy leaf, and sometimes there is a water drop. But that water drop, either a fish in the water, a bit of wind, it can fall down. It rolls down from that lotus petal very easily. So the drop is not stable. So therefore, Govinda Ghosh is saying, life is tottering like a drop of water on the lotus. Any moment, the drop can roll off, and our life is just like that. Therefore, his conclusion, we should always serve and worship the divine feet of Lord Hari. Next, 4. Welcome, Vaishana Mataji.
It is the desire and great longing of Govinda Dasa to engage himself in the 9 processes of bhakti, namely hearing the glories of Lord Hari and chanting these glories, constantly remembering him and offering prayers to him, serving the Lord's lotus feet, serving the Supreme Lord as a servant, worshipping him with flowers and incense, and so forth, serving him as a friend and completely offering the Lord's one the very self.
Okay, so not Govinda Ghosh, as I say, Govinda Das. He's the author of this song. He wrote that song. What does it remind us of? The 9 processes. Anyone remembers any Sanskrit name for? I mean, we have spoken many, many times about the 9 processes of bhakti, hearing, chanting, remembering, and so on. Do we know any Sanskrit terms? Anyone? Volunteers? Anyone? Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, Patasevanam, Achanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma Nivedanam. So this is the 9 limbs or the 9 processes of bhakti. So very important. One can engage in all of them. That's called devotional service. Or one can engage just in one of them. And one becomes successful, even just if one engages in one of the processes. For instance, Shukadev Goswami, who spoke the Bhagavatam, he was engaged in the process of speaking, chanting, Kirtanam. And Parikshit Maharaj, which we're reading on Saturdays at the moment, he was engaged in hearing, Shravanam. And both became perfect by just observing one process, either Kirtanam or hearing, Shravanam. So either one or 2 or all of them will lead us to perfection.
What about Atma Nivedanam, Prabhu?
What's that?
This one with Atma Nivedanam. What does that actually mean when it says Atma Nivedanam? Is it offering
Atma
yourself?
Nivedanam.
Is that offering yourself?
Completely, as in the translation here, serving Krishna as a friend and completely offering the Lord one's very self. That completely offering the Lord's one very self, that is Atma Nivedanam. Atma, the self. Nivedanam, offering ourselves completely to Krishna. How are we offering ourselves completely to Krishna? Which, if we completely understand, Nitya Krishna Das, I'm eternally a servant of the Lord. And this is, most people think Krishna consciousness is optional, isn't it? Let's be truthful. Most people think Krishna consciousness is optional. Optional means if I have done everything else which I needed to do, then if there's some spare time, some time left, then I will engage in worship of Krishna. Or Krishna, there's never any time. People think once I have some time, I will. I've said famous, I always remember that as a gentleman I came to, he said, no, I'm busy. Once I'm retired, I will take to bhakti. So I came some year after, and he said, oh, I'm retired now. So you said once you're retired, you take to devotional service, to Krishna consciousness. I said, yes, but I have some grandchildren to take care of. Once they're out of the house, and so it goes on. And we know the story of Narada Muni also coming to the wealthy gentleman and said to him, Krishna is inviting you. Come with me. You can go to the spiritual world right now. Krishna sent a special invitation for you to come to the spiritual world, be with Krishna. I said, yes, but my daughter is just get married. Once my daughter is married, then I'm free, and then I'll come. So Narada Muni came back. My daughter is married, yes, but now she has some children, some grandchildren, and so I have to, that's my duty, and I have to look after the family and the grandchildren. And then eventually the gentleman died, and he took a body of a dog. And then Narada Muni came again and said, dear gentleman, you have now the body of a dog. Will you now surrender to the Lord? Come with me, I'll take you to Vaikuntha. He said, no, I have to guard the property of my master. So that's our predicament. We put everything first. Our economic development, a bigger house, a bigger car, a nice holiday, wonderful food, going to the restaurant, this, that, so many things. And Krishna consciousness is optional. It's when everything else is done and we find some time, perhaps, then Krishna consciousness. Or alternatively, like I have named this type of mentality, the fire brigade devotees, they are pious, no doubt. Of course, piety alone will not assure that we go back home to Godhead. Piety will have to take another birth. Piety is not the same as Krishna consciousness. Pious, a good person. Yes, we'll have to get our karma and we'll have to enjoy the heavenly planets, and for our even unintentional sinful karma, we have to be punished in the hellish planets. So this will not help us any further. So the opposite. So this fire brigade devotees, they are pious souls. But once calamity strikes, something happens. Someone in the family catches COVID and it looks very bad. Or some of our friends, our relatives, or ourselves even. Then we run into Krishna. Or when the military conflict starts, a war starts, then we run into Krishna because we are pious. The impious people then never run to Krishna. So therefore the fire brigade devotees, they run to Krishna when calamity strikes, when there is great distress and they cannot avoid it. Then they run to Krishna, which is good. But why not run to Krishna when there is no distress? How much will Krishna appreciate that? If we only come to Krishna, please, please save me, my Lord. That is wonderful, and Krishna is very pleased. But how much is he pleased? We coming and running to him, not when we're in trouble. It's just like our friend, our son, our daughter, they're coming to us, Dad or Mom, I'm in trouble. I have no money left for the end of the month. I have to pay my rent, I have to pay this, and it's all spent. I'm in trouble. So as parents, we try to help them out. But they're only running to us when they're in trouble. How much will we appreciate when they're coming to us when they're not in trouble? And that's just an example. They're coming us because, Dad, Mom, I just love you. I wanted to visit you. You must be alone. You must be missing me. I want to share some company with you. I have brought you something, brought you a gift. But this is love. This is not just Krishna, Krishna, save me when there is trouble. So Krishna will appreciate also in between. We not only fire brigade devotees, but we actually coming to Krishna when there is no distress. That is a much, much more advanced position, and Krishna appreciates that and reciprocates with us accordingly. So, in this verse, the 9 processes, constantly remembering, yes, all of that. And completely, that means completely offering oneself, one's very self to the Lord by being completely dependent on His mercy. Krishna, Nitya Das, Krishna, I'm yours. You can do with me whatever you want. I'm a surrendered soul unto you. So that's a very advanced position in devotional service, of course. Okay, here we stop. Hare Krishna. And here we go to Bhagavad Gita again. Welcome Amit, Jayanti Bhai, Prakash and Vashana, Kishori Mataji. So we are on the 4th chapter, text 6. Let's share that screen. Hare Krishna Prakash, thank you for coming. See you on Saturday. Four, 6. Who wants to read?
Prabhupada will read.
Okay. Or I'll be so happy. You always come forward. It's not we'll have to drag you by a rope. You voluntarily. That's what Krishna wants to see. Not that we pushed and we dragged and okay and reluctantly. No, you come forward. Krishna wants to all of us come forward. When it comes to questions, also we come forward, and not just for the sake of asking a question, but something genuine. And Srila Prabhupada said, asking question is a sign of intelligence, right? Like we have seen children, some children are asking a lot of questions. Why is this? Why is that? Daddy, why is this? Mom, why is that? A lot of questions, even to the point of we are almost annoyed. But actually these children who are asking a lot of questions, that's a sign of intelligence. They want to know. They're very intelligent. So therefore, asking questions in Bhagavatam class, in Bhagavad Gita, is a sign of intelligence. But intelligence can be developed. Srila Prabhupada never appreciated question for the sake of asking a question, or a silly question, or stupid questions. No, questions which are relating to our own spiritual progress are the best questions. Okay, go ahead, Amit. 4, 6.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay. Ajapi san avyat yatma bhutanam isvaro pisan pisan.
Yep.
Prakritim swam adhishtaya
Adhishtaya.
adhishtaya sam bhav amai atma my ya
Sambhavamiyatma. Bhavami Atma becomes Bhavamiyatma.
sambhamami yatma. Although I am unborn and my transcendental body never deteriorates, and although I am the Lord of sentient beings, I still appear in every millennium in my original transcendental form.
Okay, very important verse, a key verse of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is, of course, unborn. Even though we say Jamashtami, Krishna's birthday. But that is just like in the morning, and now we're getting to spring and March and April and summer, and the day starts earlier. So when the sun is rising, we say, oh, the sun is born. A child may say, and children do like that, oh, the sun is born. The sun comes over the horizon. In the evening, the sun dies. The sun goes to sleep. Yes, but the sun is always there. It is just our vision, which we cannot see the sun after sunset. If we would go a little bit higher up, higher, then the sun is always seen. Or if we travel, we have given that example before, if we travel back from India, we travel from east to west, we're always in the sunlight. We're traveling with the sun. And if we travel with the speed of the sun, with the speed of the globe turning, then we'll stay in the sunlight eternally. So the sun is not born. The sun is unborn in that sense. So Krishna is also unborn. When he appears to our vision, we call that Jamashtami. And when Lord Chaitanya appears to our vision, we call that Gaurapanim, Hare Krishna, Hare Bol. So Krishna says, also I'm unborn, my transcendental body never deteriorates. So Krishna has a transcendental body. Transcendental means beyond this material energy of the three modes of nature, of sattva, raja, and tama, of goodness, passion, and ignorance. That means transcendental, beyond. Nothing in this world is beyond the three modes of material nature. Everything is influenced by the three modes of material nature. Everything. Particular times of the day are in one particular mode of nature, as we have heard before. The Brahma Muhurta, 2 hours before sunrise, that is Sattva Gun. That is a mode of goodness. It's just astronomically, that is just like that. So certain modes are attached to certain times in the day. Or when at night the sun goes down and it gets dark, and some different kind of human creatures coming out on the street and party time and drinking and doing some illicit stuff as well, and so on. Different kind of people. In the day time, there is a different kind of people. They are all busy, Rajagun. In the daytime, business, making money, running here, running there, going shopping, and so on. So, Krishna's body is transcendental or spiritual. Completely different to our body. Even so, the Lord appears in this material world. But we should firmly understand that Krishna, when he appears in this material world, he's not taking on a human body. We could say a human-like body. But not. Welcome, Shushila Ben, Hare Krishna. It's not a human body, it's a human-like body, a transcendental body, meaning Krishna has this transcendental body in the spiritual world. It looks just like human, but it's not human, because one point, his body never deteriorates. Krishna's body does not get old, Krishna's body doesn't deteriorate in any way. He's useful. Even while he was on walking this planet Earth, he was by material calculation over 100 years old. But Krishna's body was useful, like 16, 20 years old youth. Always. So that everybody wants that. The spring of youth, the fountain of youth. Everybody is after that. Why we are after that? Because that is our original position. Why is everybody looking for the fountain of youth? And we don't find the fountain of youth. We trying by various chemical and other means to keep the body beautiful, youthful as long as possible. But eventually the body is deteriorating, and then old age sets in, and then the joints get them problems, and there is a problem here and there, and so many problems, and eventually we cannot walk properly, all the joints become stiff, and then we need a stick to walk. So Krishna's transcendental body is not like that. And our original transcendental spiritual body in the spiritual world is just like Krishna's body. Just like eternal, full of bliss, and full of knowledge. Sat Chit Ananda. So we are also, but in small part. Not as all-encompassing as Krishna. Like the drop in the ocean. The drop in the ocean has magnesium, has salt, has potassium, and all the trace minerals, just like the ocean. A drop has the same quality. But the drop is tiny small and the ocean is huge. So that is Krishna and us. So we're looking after the fountain of youth, eternally useful. We don't like to get old or sick. We like to be beautiful and young always. Why? Because this is our natural position. But because we have identified with this material energy and this material body, we are thrown into the deteriorating stage of this body. So Krishna's body never deteriorates. So here, Krishna says, I am the Lord of all. Sentient means senses, beings which have senses. We all have our senses. So we are sentient beings, and Krishna is the Lord of all sentient beings. Still, he appears in every millennium. And again, the same point again, Krishna makes it twice. In my original transcendental form. So Krishna appears, and a famous verse, anyone remembers that verse? I come millennium after millennium to protect the pious and to destroy the miscreants. What's that verse? Anyone knows? Famous verse. Most people know that verse.
It's after the Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya
Yes,
Paritranaya Sadhunam Vinashchaya Chadustrikam Dharma Sansthapanarthaya Sambhavani Yuge Yuge.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. Hare Krishna. We have two iPhones here. I don't know who you are, but you are welcome. iPhone 1 and iPhone 2. Welcome. So, yes, here, 4:7, that is a verse. And we'll go right into this verse. That is a further explanation. Who wants to take on this verse? 4:7.
I can do that if nobody else wants to, Prabhu.
Yes, okay, welcome.
Yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam shrajami aham.
That
Whenever
goes together. May I just remind you, it's not Shrichami Aham, but Shrichamyaham.
Shrijamyaham.
That's it.
Right. Thank you. Whenever there's a decline in religious practice, O descendant of Bharata, and a predominant rise of a religion, at that time I descend myself.
Okay. When was the last time? When
As
he
Krishna,
descended?
As Krishna.
When was that?
That was in the Dwapar Yuga.
End of Dwapar Yuga, 5,000 years ago. Yes. Roughly 5,000 years ago. So, Krishna is protecting the devotees. He is, whenever religious practice decline. Why does religious practice decline? That is a good question. Anyone can answer that? Why? Why is it's always declining, the religious practice? Even Krishna comes and he establishes a dharma and then it goes downhill again. Why is that? It is because in this material world, everything is declining. Everything. Our bodies are declining. Day by day, deteriorating. So even religious practice is also deteriorating. That is the nature of the age of Kali. Or the nature of time. Time is deteriorating everything. Time is deteriorating our lifetime. Everything is deteriorating. We may buy a new car and that is deteriorating after 4, 5, 7 or 10 years. And everything is deteriorating. So here also religious practices are deteriorating. People forget about it. After Krishna walked his planet, there was lots of dharmas there. And in fact, Yudhishthira Maharaj and Parikshit Maharaj, all the righteous kings and saintly kings, they made sure that religious practice was upheld. That's a duty of the king. We read on Saturdays. These are very extraordinary devotees of the Lord and righteous and saintly kings, Raja Rishi. And they made a purposeful effort to keep religious practice alive. If even in our own life, if we don't make an effort to, let's say, to come here on a Wednesday and on a Saturday and taking to the Sangha and Association of Devotees, if we don't make a conscious effort, we just let it happen, then our material tendencies will overtake our spiritual life. Little by little, by little, by little. That's the nature of this material world. So in order to keep our religious practice and our spiritual life alive, we have to make an effort. Material development is almost happening automatically. Not completely. We have to go to work and we have to save up and put in our bank account and so on and so on. But by just doing our material duties, then our economic development will automatically progress without too much effort. But spiritually, we have to make a special effort. We have to make an effort. Let's take the example of the Sangha of devotees. We have to say, today is Wednesday, 7 o'clock. Okay, I'm gonna come to the Sangha of the devotees, Wednesday, Saturday, whenever. So it's 7 o'clock, let me put everything else aside. If we don't make a concerted effort like that, it will not happen. Then the mind comes up. Oh, but I get that all the time. From my point of view, you would not believe what excuses. They're excuses. But for the person, they are very real. But actually, they're excuses. When I write, oh, we missed you on Saturday. Oh, yes, I wanted to come, but something happened and the family happened and there was something more important and this and this and that. So many things. Oh, Prabhu, I didn't have the time, but next time I'll surely come. And the next time comes and the mind comes up with millions of excuses. What is more important? That's what I said earlier on. That is when Krishna consciousness is still optional. But Krishna consciousness, if we are serious, it goes from optional to crucial. If we would really know the truth and understand this rare human form of life we have read in the song by Govinda Das, then we come to the conclusion Krishna consciousness is actually not optional, it's crucial. It's crucial. Because without it, we guaranteed take another birth. Oh, that's a long time away. No, it's not a long time away. Lifetime passes so quick. Now this year I will be 72. Where have the 72 years gone? I don't know how. I was just a young boy yesterday. It was just yesterday. I can very vividly remember. Young boy, going to church, playing piano, playing with my friend, going to school. So many things. Roaming in the nature outside in the forest with my friends. It was just like yesterday. It appears like yesterday. Where have 72 years gone? In a flash. In a flash they have disappeared. So therefore, this human form of life is very rare and Krishna consciousness is crucial. If we are sincere, we want to make a solution to the repeated birth and death. If we don't do it, then we'll have to take another birth. We may think, oh, not such a big problem. I have taken already millions of births, so take another one. But it's very painful. To die is painful. To take birth is painful. To grow up is painful. There's no guarantee what family. It wouldn't be a nice family. It doesn't have to be a nice Indian birth. It doesn't have to be nice parents. It doesn't have to be a nice country. It can be a poor country. It can be a country which is torn by war. It can be a country where starvation is very widespread. How do we know? There's no guarantee what our next birth. The parents may not love us. Not very much. So many possibilities. We have no choice over that. So it's not very nice to take another birth. If we can understand that, then Krishna consciousness becomes crucial. We want to make a solution in this lifetime, and we can make a solution this lifetime. Srila Prabhupada said, everybody can become fully Krishna consciousness in this very lifetime, with Srila Prabhupada's mercy, in this very lifetime. And he also said, 50 years is more than enough to become fully Krishna conscious. So that gives us a bit of an idea. Some people think in a sentimental way, oh, I like Krishna. Sometimes I do some arti. All these things are obviously very good, but in a sentimental way and not really taking it seriously. Doing it maybe from a cultural point of view, from a religious point of view, that will not save us. We need to practice Krishna consciousness seriously. There is a serious business. So Srila Prabhupada said 50 years is more than enough. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, it means 6 months, a year or 2 or 3 years. It will take longer than that. Like any process, if we go and study to become a doctor, it takes at least 5 years. It's not happening in 5 weeks. It takes time. So Krishna consciousness, to develop full Krishna consciousness, takes time. So 2, 3 years, 5 years, maybe not enough. 50 years is more than enough. So we can understand maybe 40 years, maybe 30 years. If 50 years is more than enough to become fully Krishna conscious. So maybe 30 years. Maybe even 25 years we can do it. But it will take some time. It will at least take 20, 30 years to become fully Krishna conscious. If we are determined, if we are sincere, then that can be accomplished. But our mind is always coming in between, and we very quickly forget. We may remember in the association of devotees, yes, or when a loved one passes away. Then everybody takes an inner vow, I'll become very serious in my Krishna consciousness now. If a loved one passes away. That is called renunciation at the time of a funeral. There's even a Sanskrit term for that. I forgot. But that doesn't last very long. 3 days, 5 days a week after, we're back to our old ways. And why is it in the Christian way, and I have first-hand experience on that, why is it that Christians, they go to confess their sins every Saturday? Confess. There's this little box in the church and the priest is on one side and there is a screen. You cannot see the priest cannot see you, but he can hear. And then the priest saying, so what do you have to confess? And then you start, I have done this, I have been sinning, done sinful activities, this I have done, and this I have done, and this, and this, and this, and that. And then the priest says, okay, I'll give you some chant, the rosary, chant some prayers 100 times, and then he absolves you of your sins. He can do that because he is in the service of God, and your sins are forgiven, and you do the prayers 100 times and so on. That's good. And that's true. But then we come back again the next Saturday with exactly the same sins. And that goes on an entire lifetime. To confess our sins, to be forgiven, and then to sin again. That is compared with an elephant who takes a bath and then comes out and takes some dust and throws it all over his body. An elephant's bath. So that will not help us. That's even an offense to act in a sinful way on the strength of chanting Hare Krishna. Because that will not help us. So we have to become very serious. If we don't have 30 years, 40 years to become fully Krishna conscious, then we'll have to do the best we can. Of course. So here Krishna comes to establish the declining religious practices. When irreligion raises its head again. So at that time, he comes himself. Personally, he takes care of it. And that next one as well, that is a follow-up verse. That is even more explanatory. It's a very, very important verse, maybe even more important than Yada Yada Hi Dharmasya. Who can read it? Nobody?
Mm.
Amit.
Oh, sorry, I would read it, but unfortunately, I just need to go because I need to sort something out.
Yes.
So I see you guys Saturday.
Oh, you have to go now. Okay. Yes. Okay. No
Yeah,
problem.
sorry, yeah. Okay.
That's okay. See you on Saturday.
Thank you for tonight's class. Very nice class.
Thank you
Okay,
for
next week.
coming.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Amit.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Anyone else? Okay, I will read it then. Paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chatushkritam dharma samsthapanarthaya sambhavami yuge yuge. In order to deliver the pious and to annihilate the miscreants, as well as to re-establish the principles of religion, I advent myself millennium after millennium. We heard that before. Millennium after millennium. Krishna comes. So, here Krishna gives a little bit more, a deeper explanation. Not only to establish or re-establish the principles of religion, but to deliver the pious people, and to annihilate the miscreants, the demons. The pious people are dear to Krishna. And the devotees are most dear to Krishna. Beyond pious. The devotees, of course, are pious, but they're more than pious. So Krishna comes to protect and to deliver the pious and to annihilate the demons. And as well to re-establish the principles of religion. So he comes down from his spiritual abode millennium after millennium. One could ask this question. Why is Krishna actually coming? What is the real reason? Why is he coming? He doesn't have to come personally to protect the pious and to annihilate the demons. He could do that with his agencies of the material nature and so many ways. Why he has to come personally? It's almost like the prime minister, the president of a country. He comes, let's say someone has done some great service for the country. So normally, that person is honored by the local government official, by some minister perhaps. But the president of the country, he can delegate that. He doesn't have to come himself. But here Krishna, he comes himself. Why? That's a question. Who can say?
Is that to deliver the devotees, really? I mean, he could have sent anyone to kill Kansa and Ravan or something, but he has to come himself just to deliver his devotees who are pious people and to kill the miscreants or the Ravans or the Kansas that are in the world.
Yes, but he doesn't have to come personally. He have many deputies, he have many ministers, he has many who could do that job. He doesn't have to come personally, but he does come personally. Why?
Because he loves his devotees.
Yes, he loves his devotees and he pleases his devotees. Devotees want to see him. Which devotee wouldn't want to have the darshan of Krishna? That's the real reason.
He came down for Prahlad Maharaj.
Yes.
That's just the best example, isn't it, really?
Oh, yes, it's beautiful. Such a pure devotee as Prahlad. He came out of the pillar. Out of anything he would have come for his pure devotee. And Krishna reciprocates with his pure devotees. So the devotees that want to see the Lord, they want to have the darshan of the Lord. So that the annihilation of the miscreants, that someone else can do that. Even material nature can annihilate the miscreants. There are many ways of earthquakes, of floods, of nuclear weapons, so many things. The miscreants can be annihilated. But Krishna reciprocates with his devotees who want his darshan. Therefore, he comes personally. That is the only reason. That's a real reason. Sometimes people don't understand. They think Krishna comes to re-establish the principles of religion. He can have his agencies doing all that. But really, he comes to please his devotees. Hare Krishna. Any question? We take that verse as well. We soon stop. Who wants to read that? 4:9. No one? I'll have to read it again. Chanma karma chame divyam evam yo vetitat vataha tyaktva deham punarjanma naitimam etisarchuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attains my eternal abode, O Arjuna. That's a very important verse. We may wonder, how can we reach Krishna's eternal abode? What is Krishna's eternal abode? First of all, Krishna's eternal abode is either Vaikuntha, beyond this material world. We spoke just earlier on, Kunta is full of fear, this material world, and Vaikuntha without fear. Why? Without. So, Vaikuntha, between this material universe and Vaikuntha, there is 8 layers. 8 layers, which are very powerful layers. Each following layer is 100 times bigger. So if we want to go to Vaikuntha, we have to cross through these layers of earth, water, bhumi, apo, nalo, vayu. Earth, water, fire, air is a mind, intelligence, and the false ego, ahankara. We have to cross through this thick wall of material elements. And beyond these 8-fold layers, which is a covering of this universe, then there is a spiritual sky. The spiritual sky is an effulgence of the Lord emanating from his toenails, from his body. And anyone who wants impersonal Sayuchya Mukti liberation, he will get a place in that spiritual sky or Brahmajyoti. All the demons who get killed by Krishna personally, they also get that. So devotees never accept Sayuchya Mukti, merging into that Brahmajyoti. And within that Brahmajyoti, there are floating planets, spiritual planets, the Vaikuntha planets. That's a Vaikuntha world. So that Brahmajyoti is also spiritual, of course. It's Krishna's effulgence. But in that effulgence of the Lord, there are floating the Vaikuntha planets, innumerable Vaikuntha planets. Each Vaikuntha planet, there is an incarnation of the Lord. There is a planet for Ram, there is a planet for Nrsimhadev, for Vamana, for Kurma, for Matsya, and so on, Hayagriva. Each incarnation has their own planet. And we may only remember 10 avatars, Dashavatars. But there are how many avatars, how many incarnations? As many as waves in the ocean, means innumerable. We only know a small fraction, and the Bhagavatam talks about just a fraction of the incarnations, but there are many, many, many more. And they all have their own spiritual planet, Vaikuntha planet. And in Vaikuntha, there is, of course, Lord Narayan and Lakshmi, and Vishnu Dutas, the Vaikuntha basis. And it's the Lord is worshipped in great pomp, in great opulence. He has his daily activities, he gives his darshan, and so on, and so on. And all the inhabitants of Vaikuntha have exactly the same bodily features as the Lord. 4 arms, a bluish body, the same kind of helmet, garlands, and so on. Therefore, Gop Kumar, who progressed to the higher planetary systems and eventually entered Vaikuntha, Gop Kumar, which is an example of our elevation also. Gop Kumar in the Brihad Bhagavatamritam, it is very nicely explained how he crossed through these 8 layers of material elements. Bhumi, Apo, Nalo, Vayu. He crossed through that. And it was very attractive. That Gop Kumar was very attracted by these layers. And there were personalities, and they say, stay here. Where are you going? Stay here. It is so nice. And it was very tempting to stay there, but he was compelled of moving on through the layers. He was not diverted. And he came to Vaikuntha. When he entered the Vaikuntha planet, he saw what he thought it was the Lord, his worshipable Lord, Lord Narayan. 4 arms, bluish body, beautiful features, necklaces and armlets and helmets and decorated and garlands and everything. So he offered his obeisance. He said, "Oh, my Lord, Gopal, Lord Narayan." And they said, No, we are not Lord Narayan. We are Vaikuntha Basis. We are the servants of Lord Narayan. So by this we understand, said Vaikuntha Basis, inhabitants of Vaikuntha, they look exactly like Lord Vishnu, like Lord Narayan. He mistook them, and then they brought him actually into the association of Lord Narayan. Then he could understand. So the devotees, of course, then never takes the position of the Lord. They are Nitya Krishna Das, eternal servants of the Lord. So, if, here Krishna says in this verse, if we know the nature, the transcendental nature of Krishna's appearance and activities, when we leave this body, we don't take again a birth in this material world, but we go straight back to Godhead. Now that verse is very important. And we might think, oh, there's no problem. I know Krishna's nature and how he appears. Chamashtami, he appears. And we celebrate. And his activities, we read about it. No, it is much more than that. That is certainly nice. We have to really, really understand and know the transcendental nature of Krishna. There's much, much more to it. And how he makes his appearance, not just from book knowledge. We have to realize that and understand Krishna. And if we do truly understand Krishna, how he appears, how transcendental he is, and his activities, then that will be our last birth. So we should really aim endeavor very much to understand Krishna's transcendental nature. That is why the Lord is discussing that. That's why we're hearing Srimad Bhagavatam. That's why we're discussing Bhagavad Gita, to understand Krishna's transcendental nature. Of course, we never can fully understand Krishna, but to some extent we can understand Krishna, and we're discussing. We never stop discussing about Krishna. As in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, my devotees, they're always discussing about me. They're feeling great happiness in discussing about me and my appearance and my activities. So it's that very process of discussing and speaking and hearing about Krishna, his appearance, his transcendental nature, his activities. If we do that till we leave this body here, we engage in Krishna Katha, in the association of devotees. Like Parikshit Maharaj, he heard for 7 days non-stop about Krishna's transcendental nature, his appearance, his activities, and he asked questions. And Shukadev Goswami gave him the answers. And he did not know, previously to the appearance of Shukadev on the scene, he did not know. He had that curse, in 7 days you're going to die. So, but he did not know what is the best way. So he was a king. He assembled all the wise men and said, what is the best way for someone who's going to die in 7 days? What shall I do? Which yajna shall I perform? Which ritualistic ceremonies? Which this, which that? Which meditation shall I take? Which mantras shall I chant? And all his advisors gave him so many different methods. There's so many different methods. This yoga and that yoga, no practice hatha yoga, no ashtanga yoga, do this yoga, do so many different methods. Perform this yajna. That will help you. Then Shukadev Goswami, by the Lord's arrangement, he came. He said, no, the best way of King Parikshit, the best way for you to prepare yourself is hearing about Krishna, his transcendental nature, his appearance, his activities, up to the point where you leave your body. And that took place. 7 days. We may struggle even 7 years or 70 years to do that. But Parikshit Maharaj was completely immersed. We would be completely immersed, hopefully, if we would know in 7 days we have to leave this body. We would, all these activities which diverting us, we would say, okay, no. Put everything aside, just now about Krishna. And that reminds me of, I was at the hospital, you all know Chaitanya Nitai Prabhu, our dear Chaitanya Nitai, who passed away many, many years back now. I visited him in the hospital. I just wanted to visit him. And he just was on the way of being discharged. I didn't know that. He said, I'm being discharged. And the doctors, they gave me, I don't remember what it was, 2 weeks. And then my body will be finished. He was quite shocked, as everybody would be. The doctor tells you have 2 weeks, dear sir, madam. And then I remember telling him, and he was worried about his family. What about my family? What about my wife? What about my sons? I said, Chaitanya Nitai, now you leave everything aside. You have 2 weeks, perhaps a bit more, perhaps a bit less. Now you leave everything aside and fully concentrate your mind on Krishna. Everything else will be automatically taken care of. Don't worry her. Don't worry, your wife will not die, your children will not die immediately. No, they'll be taken care of. Someone will take care of them. So don't worry about all of that. Your duty is now to fully concentrate and fix your mind on Krishna's lotus feet. And that's what he did. Therefore, he was successful in leaving this body. So, that is what Parikshit Maharaj did. And if we would take this human form of life serious enough that our time could be up at any moment. And we come to an advanced age of 60, 70, 80, then there is not much time left. Then, if we, every day, from today, and every day, we take it as our priority to understand Krishna's transcendental nature, his appearance, his activities, and keep on hearing and discussing and fixing our mind. We cannot fix our mind on Krishna's transcendental nature, his appearance, his activities. We cannot if we engaged in so many material activities, and Krishna consciousness just becomes a side issue. It doesn't mean we have to stop our activities. We keep on doing what we're doing, but Krishna has to be in everything which we do. That's called Krishna consciousness. We can be Krishna conscious. It's not that we suddenly, okay, I leave everything behind, I go to the Himalayas. That will not work, because we're taking all the attraction to this material nature within our own mind. So our own mind will disturb us as much as when we are here. That's not the solution. But we have to hear, chant, and discuss Krishna's transcendental nature, his appearance, his activities on a daily basis. We have to become so Krishna conscious that throughout the day, whatever we do, and we're not stopping, again, we're not stopping what we do. We're still cooking, we're still eating, we're still going to work, we're still earning money, we're still driving the car. So many things. We're still looking after the family. But with a consciousness that Krishna is there in every single of these activities. We're constantly singing. We're doing it actually for Krishna as devotional service. Then, if we can come to that stage of Krishna consciousness and not being interrupted by the mind who is saying, come, let's enjoy this, let's enjoy that. No, we don't want to enjoy anything. We want to serve Krishna. That's the highest enjoyment. If we do that till we're leaving this body, there is no doubt that we'll go also back, attain Krishna's eternal abode. So this verse is therefore so important. It gives a recipe in just one sentence. In one sentence, Krishna gives us a way how we can live at the end of this body. We can go to Krishna's eternal abode. Everybody wants that. We all want to go back to home, back to Godhead. So here is a recipe. Okay, here we stop. Any questions or comments?
No problem, but very interesting class. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Right, it's much more than when reading this text, actually. What it means, there is much more behind that. We have to practice that. We have to keep engaged in hearing and chanting and remembering her. We can remembering Krishna all the time. But that is not that easy if we don't practice it. We remembering Krishna maybe once a week, No, we have to remember Krishna always. That's what Krishna says. Man mana bhava mat bhakto. Always remember me. Same message. Same message throughout the Gita. Always remember me. That is called Krishna consciousness. Okay, here we stop. And we'll see you back on Saturday and Srimad Bhagavatam. Therefore, it's so important. At least twice a week. We should do it every single day. In the temples, they're discussing Srimad Bhagavatam in the morning, Bhagavad Gita in the evening, chanting Hare Krishna 16 rounds in the morning, doing Guru Puja, doing Mangal Aarti, doing evening Aarti, doing devotional service in between. So we are not living in a temple. We don't have that privilege. So at least twice a week we should take advantage. Twice a week we should take advantage of hearing and discussing Srimad Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita. And then that will help us to, in between, also to be Krishna conscious. Okay, thank you, Hare Krishna. Thank you for being here. And we see you back on Saturday, 7 o'clock for our Srimad Bhagavatam discussion. Hare Krishna.
Krishna, everyone. Hare Krishna, everyone.